It's been said that Bigfoot exhibits nocturnal behavior, perhaps to hunt or to avoid detection. But the cloak of darkness couldn't hide the creature in the stunning footage you're about to see.
Bigfoot DNA captured on forensic camera?
I'm still scanning the area as much as I can with the thermals while trying to also juggle my flashlight so that I could get through this terrain. And all of a sudden, it suddenly disappears.
It's true, and the shocking details will leave you stunned. Deep in the storm-ravaged forests of Northern California, something extraordinary has been found. Massive, unexplained footprints in a mysterious tree structure packed with potential DNA evidence. Let's keep up the search, which is no longer just about sightings. Cutting-edge technology is uncovering clues that may prove the legend is real. Could Bigfoot be closer than ever? Imagine stumbling across a 15-inch imprint in the mud. It's not shaped like anything you'd expect from the usual forest wildlife like bears or deer. The team found two such prints, and when they laid them side by side, the resemblance was uncanny. Could it be from two individuals? Perhaps. One measured 19 inches, slightly larger than the other, hinting at the possibility of a duo stomping through the forest. The fact that they were found in different spots only adds to the intrigue. The deeper we looked, the harder it was to ignore what might have left those tracks. Then there's the terrain itself. Northern California's Lost Coast isn't just your average stretch of wilderness.
We should make our way down there, although it looks pretty treacherous.
Well, let's keep moving along this trail paralleling the river and see if we can get to a different vantage point.
Yeah, good idea. Let's go.
This place has been pummeled by historic storms lately, with a massive atmospheric river barreling in to make things even more intense. Picture layers of water vapor stretching miles high and hundreds of miles wide, unleashing rain and chaos on the forest. How would such extreme weather impact a creature like Bigfoot? It's anyone's guess, but it's clear this isn't your typical camping trip. Back at base camp, the team wasn't just sitting around. They were comparing casts, analyzing terrain, and trying to piece together the puzzle. One of them mentioned how the forest floor, drenched and muddy, captured fine details of the prints, enough to spark serious excitement. Another pointed out how navigating the terrain at night with night vision goggles made everything trickier. Depth perception and visibility were major hurdles, making every step feel like a gamble. But when the cast came out of the mud, the details made all the trouble worth it. One cast showed what seemed like toe separations, but only 3 toes. Unusual, right? It's not what you'd expect from a human or a bear. This detail alone could change the way the team looks at their findings. Another cast was less defined, but still massive, giving off that eerie, something's out there vibe. If these footprints really belong to Bigfoot, they're unlike anything we've seen before.
Maria and I also found a tree structure. It's huge.
Really?
Not only that, but we found 2 smaller structures leading up to it. I think you need to meet up with us first thing in the AM.
Okay.
The team isn't just relying on footprints, though. They've brought in some next-level tech. Enter the hyperspectral camera, a device straight out of a crime lab. This isn't your average camera. It scans the entire electromagnetic spectrum, picking up differences in materials that the human eye can't see. In forensic terms, it's a tool for finding traces of DNA that would otherwise go unnoticed. Here, it's being used to scan tree structures. Those odd arrangements of branches and logs that some believe Bigfoot creates as markers or shelters. Using this camera, the team scanned the top of a large tree structure and started picking up potential DNA hotspots. The idea was simple: pinpoint the exact spots where Bigfoot might have left behind some genetic breadcrumbs. And they found something. It wasn't a huge flashing neon sign that screamed, "Bigfoot was here," but it was enough to warrant further testing. The hyperspectral camera could be the game changer they've been waiting for. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The Lost Coast is a tricky place to search for anything, let alone an elusive primate. Thick forests, muddy ground, and unpredictable weather make every step an adventure. Add to that the eerie sounds of something moving just out of sight, and you've got a setting straight out of a thriller. The team's thermal cameras have picked up bears and deer, but there's always that nagging thought. What if it's something else? Back to those tree structures. They're strange, no doubt about it. large branches stacked in seemingly deliberate ways, almost like markers or signs. The hyperspectral camera focused on one of these formations and found traces of something. It's not clear what yet, but the fact that they're finding anything at all is enough to keep the team's adrenaline pumping. This isn't just a casual hike in the woods. It's starting to feel more like a CSI episode, complete with DNA sampling and cutting-edge tech.
Chimp DNA left that DNA behind. I definitely want to collect some soil samples from underneath. So stay on the outside, and I'm just going to grab some samples from within here.
One of the team members pointed out how their findings could shift the entire strategy. If there are multiple individuals out there, it's not just about finding one creature. It's about understanding an entire population. That realization could change the game entirely. Suddenly, the goal isn't just to prove Bigfoot exists, but to understand its habits, habitat, and perhaps even its social structures. The storm closing in on the Lost Coast only adds to the urgency. It's not just about gathering evidence now. It's about beating the clock. The atmospheric river is threatening to turn the area into a swamp, making it nearly impossible to continue the search. This means every piece of tech, every clue, and every moment counts. One of the standout moments of the expedition came when the hyperspectral camera picked up a promising indicator on a tree structure. It was only a few feet away from a spot where a sample had been collected the night before. This discovery suggested that the team might have been closer to their target than they initially thought. The technology was proving invaluable, highlighting areas that could easily have been overlooked with the naked eye. The importance of the hyperspectral camera can't be overstated. Without it, key evidence might have been missed entirely. The ability to detect DNA in places that seem barren opens up new possibilities for the search. It's the kind of advancement that could turn speculation into hard science. The storm was just the start, leading Russell to a crucial discovery: tracks, claws, and a kill zone. Rain was coming down in sheets, keeping everything soaked and miserable. Russell was 6 miles from where Maria had last been, trudging through the drenched woods in pursuit of something he had caught on his thermal camera the night before. A bipedal creature, moving across a ridge. He was determined to get answers, even with the rain hammering down relentlessly. The rain had its upsides, though. Animals like deer, elk, and bears tended to hunker down in weather like this, finding dry spots and staying still. That meant Russell might have an easier time catching up to whatever he was tracking. Stumbling across a dry patch, he noticed something unusual. The ground showed signs of activity. Something had been here, taking shelter. The rain, instead of being a nuisance, was now an ally. Then came the grim discovery. In a small clearing, Russell found bones scattered across the ground. A chilling sight. A whole pelvis lay there, surrounded by remains that looked like they had been torn apart. The bones were not chewed on like one would expect from a predator like a bear. They were clean, as if something had stripped the flesh away deliberately. Fresh tendons and bits of flesh still clung to some of them, proof that this was recent. Whatever had done this was not just killing, it was feeding methodically. Russell called the area a kill zone.
We would eat food where we pull the flesh from the bones and consume it. And to me, that was interesting.
Sure reminds me of an ostrich. We call it the kill zone.
Bones of different ages were scattered about, some old and bleached by the sun, others fresh with meat still clinging to them. Something big had been dragging its kills here to feed. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. This was not the work of a typical predator. It felt calculated, almost human-like in its precision. Moving through the woods, he pressed on, scanning for more clues. The thermal image from the night before had shown a large, upright figure. Could it really be Bigfoot? He kept telling himself he was on the right track. Food sources were abundant in the area. Deer, smaller game, and now this unsettling evidence of something far larger. Then he stumbled across an old homestead, clearly abandoned. The structure was weathered but still standing, likely built in the early 20th century. The roof was not caved in, and the doors hung open, a perfect refuge for any creature looking to escape the elements. As he explored the place cautiously, he noticed something alarming. Blood. Bright red stains marked the ground, leading away from the building. The blood was fresh, not yet darkened or decayed. Above him, nails jutted from the ceiling, sharp and rusted. Russell figured whatever had been here must have brushed against the nails, injuring itself. The trail of blood told a story. Something had been hurt and fled. The trail was faint in places, covered by dirt and debris, but Russell's trained eyes picked it out. He followed it carefully, collecting samples along the way. If this was evidence of something extraordinary, DNA could confirm it. Whether it turned out to be a human, an animal, or something else entirely, he needed that proof.
2 DNA samples out of this. Could have been a person, it could have been an animal.
But if there's more to this than a human or a known animal species, then we've got a great starting point. We actually have DNA in a blood sample.
Miles from the bloodied homestead, the pursuit continued. Russell moved through the dense woods, staying sharp, every sense on high alert. The forest seemed alive with tension. The sound of something moving through water caught his attention. He went into stealth mode, ditching his heavier gear and slipping on night vision goggles. The element of surprise was his best chance to catch whatever he was tracking. Navigating through the dark, steep terrain, he paused. The air felt charged as if something was near. Then he spotted them. Tracks, fresh impressions in the soil. They looked like footprints, complete with toes. But these were not human. The size alone ruled that out. Could it be a bear? No. Bear tracks have a distinctive shape, with claws leaving marks in front of the pads. These prints had no such marks. Russell's heart raced as he examined the prints. They were unlike anything he had seen before. The size, the depth, the shape, it all pointed to something massive and unknown. The realization hit him. This could be it. This could be evidence of the creature he had been chasing. He pressed on, following the trail deeper into the wilderness. The tracks led him to another unsettling scene. Nearby, the remains of another kill were scattered, bones stripped clean just like before. The pattern was clear now. This creature was hunting, feeding, and leaving behind eerie evidence of its presence. The pursuit stretched into the night, each step bringing Russell closer to whatever was out there. His determination never wavered, even as exhaustion set in. The rain, the darkness, the unyielding terrain, none of it mattered. What mattered was finding the truth.
Got a long night ahead of us, so I've decided I'm going to go back and continue the same direction I've been tracking.
As dawn approached, the forest began to stir. The sounds of birds and small animals returned, breaking the silence that had accompanied Russell throughout the night. He stopped to collect his thoughts, reviewing the evidence he had gathered. The thermal image, the bones, the blood trail, and now these tracks. It all pointed to one conclusion. Something extraordinary was out here, something that defied explanation. With a renewed sense of purpose, Russell set off again, determined to uncover the mystery lurking in the woods. The hunt was far from over. Now, as he moved even deeper into the wilderness, the terrain became more challenging. The underbrush grew thicker, and the steep inclines pushed his stamina to its limits. Every sound, from the snap of a twig to the distant call of an owl, kept him on edge. But he knew he could not stop. Another hour of trekking led him to yet another clue. A tree had deep gashes in its bark, claw marks that ran nearly 5 feet up the trunk. Whatever had made these marks was strong and tall, far taller than any bear he had ever encountered. He examined the grooves closely. The cuts were fresh, the edges of the bark still moist. Nearby, he noticed something even more disturbing. A large pile of scat lay at the base of a tree. It was unlike anything he had seen before. The size alone was astonishing, and it was filled with fragments of bone and fur. This creature was not just hunting, it was devouring its prey whole, leaving behind only the parts it could not digest. Russell documented everything carefully, taking photos and samples. He knew that every piece of evidence brought him closer to understanding what he was dealing with.
On top of the hill and back the other side and see if there's anything between those 2 points and see if there's any
good
more.
idea.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to leave this with you in your capable hands. I'll keep in touch.
All right, Russ.
The sun was beginning to rise now, casting a faint glow over the forest. But even in the daylight, the place felt eerie, as if it was hiding secrets it did not want him to uncover. His determination grew stronger. He could feel it in his gut that he was close, that whatever had left these clues was not far ahead. The tracks were becoming fresher, the signs of activity more frequent. It was as if the creature knew it was being followed and was leading him deeper into its territory. As the hours passed, Russell's mind raced with possibilities. Could this really be Bigfoot? The elusive legend that so many had dismissed as a myth? Or was it something else entirely? Something no one had ever documented before? He could not shake the feeling that he was on the verge of a groundbreaking discovery. By midday, he found himself in a dense thicket, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The tracks led him to a small stream, its water running clear and cold. He knelt down to examine the mud along the banks. More prints. These were even more detailed than the ones he had seen earlier, with distinct ridges and lines that resembled the dermal ridges on a human hand. This was it. The evidence was undeniable now. He was not just chasing a shadow or a figment of his imagination. Something real was out here. Something that had left behind a trail of clues for him to follow. As Russell pressed on, Mireya and Bryce readied a daring plan. Signs of the elusive legend. Miles away from where Russell made his choice to search, Mireya and Bryce were up to something bold. They were ready to roll out a new plan to catch a glimpse of the creature Mireya had been tracking. It seemed like this area might just be a Bigfoot hangout, maybe even a place where they raise their young. Mireya's idea? Use primate pheromones to try and lure one out of hiding. Bryce had a bottle of this potent mix made of primate urine and pheromones, a strong chemical cocktail that animals cannot ignore. The plan was simple: spray it around to let the scent fill the area and see if anything unusual came sniffing around. Mireya had scoped out a perfect spot earlier. She found signs, scratches on trees and hollow stumps that looked like something had been marking its territory. Tonight, she would be up on a ridge with a thermal camera, keeping watch. Bryce, on the other hand, would stay near the sprayed area, armed with a recording of what was supposedly a Bigfoot call. The idea was that the combination of smell and sound might draw the creature out into the open.
This immediately caught my eye from quite a distance, actually. I mean, it was so orderly amongst all this chaos.
Yeah, it definitely stands out. You know, the first thing I think of is, okay.
Bryce found a spot to hunker down, far enough away to not scare off anything curious, but close enough to observe. He was confident. If this pheromone mix worked the way it should, something big would definitely take notice. If Bigfoot really was using this place to raise its family, this might even lead them to the creature's nesting site. With everything set, they waited. The scent was out there, carried by the night breeze, and Bryce played the recording of a supposed Bigfoot mating call. The woods were quiet, but there was an electric tension in the air. Bryce and Mireya knew they were in for a long night. The darkness can play tricks on the mind, especially when hunting for something unknown. Hours passed. Mireya and Bryce kept in touch, checking for any signs. Bryce asked if Mireya saw anything unusual on her thermal camera, but the answer was no. Still, they pressed on, trying not to lose hope. Mireya decided to add another layer to the plan, using a device called a Fox Pro, which could project various animal calls. The more they could mimic the natural sounds of the forest, the better their chances. Then something happened. Bryce noticed movement, tree branches swaying in a way that did not feel like the wind. He reported it to Mireya, who scanned the area but did not see anything. Bryce's flashlight cut through the darkness, but it only revealed more shadows. He thought he caught a glimpse of something moving between the trees, but it was hard to be sure. Mireya's thermal camera finally picked up a heat signature about 150 feet away. It was faint, but definitely there. Bryce moved cautiously toward it, guided by Mireya's observations. But just as quickly as the signature appeared, it vanished. This left them wondering what they were dealing with. Bryce's unease grew. The forest seemed to close in around them, each sound amplified in the stillness of the night. Despite losing the heat signature, they kept moving. Bryce followed Mireya's directions, heading toward the area where the figure had been spotted. They did not want to let this lead slip away. Along the way, they stumbled upon something unusual, a structure made of tree limbs. It was not random debris, but something that looked deliberate, almost like it had been built. The arrangement of sticks and branches seemed purposeful, as if marking something important. Mireya examined it closely. The sticks were not cut, they were broken naturally, but the way they were stacked did not seem like an accident. It reminded her of other reported signs of Bigfoot activity, structures that looked like signals or markers. Bryce agreed. This was not just a pile of sticks, it was something more. Maybe it was pointing toward a direction, leading them deeper into the woods. The discovery felt significant. If this structure was indeed connected to the creatures they were tracking, it could be a sign that they were getting closer. Mireya and Bryce decided to trust their instincts and follow where the evidence seemed to lead. The woods grew darker and more mysterious as they moved forward, the air thick with the possibility of what they might find next. The night stretched on. Every rustle in the underbrush, every crack of a twig underfoot, felt loaded with meaning. They moved carefully, scanning their surroundings and whispering observations back and forth. The forest, alive with its usual nocturnal noises, seemed almost to breathe with them. Further ahead, the ground began to change.
It was wood. It was natural wood. It wasn't a goat skull, but it was presented and placed there with intent. And tonight, coming across this similarities of that.
The soft earth turned into a mix of damp moss and exposed roots. Mireya paused, shining her flashlight low to catch a better look. She spotted what appeared to be an impression in the mud. It was broad and deep, with a shape that vaguely resembled a foot. Bryce joined her, and they both knelt down to examine it. They estimated it was at least twice the size of an average human foot, with clear indications of toes. Was this the evidence they had been hoping for? Mireya snapped photos and took measurements, making sure to document the find. They marked the spot on their map before pressing on, their excitement tempered by caution. If this print was fresh, it meant they might be closer to their target than they had realized. As they continued, the forest seemed to grow quieter. The usual hum of insects and calls of distant animals faded, replaced by an eerie stillness. Bryce could feel the hair on the back of his neck stand up. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Mireya's thermal camera lit up again, this time showing a faint heat signature moving through the trees ahead. It was larger than anything they had seen so far and moved with a deliberate, almost graceful pace. They stopped in their tracks, watching intently as the figure weaved in and out of view. Bryce reached for his binoculars, trying to get a closer look, but the figure disappeared behind a dense thicket of trees. The pair decided to follow, moving as quietly as they could. The trail led them to a small clearing where the ground was littered with broken branches and patches of disturbed soil. In the center of the clearing stood another structure, this one even more elaborate than the first. It was taller and more intricately built, almost like a crude shelter. Mireya and Bryce exchanged glances, their unspoken thoughts clear. They were close. Mireya adjusted her thermal camera, scanning the area for any signs of movement. Bryce, meanwhile, circled the structure looking for clues. He found strands of hair caught on a broken branch, which they carefully collected for later analysis. The hair was coarse and dark, unlike anything they had seen before. As they regrouped, the silence was shattered by a low, guttural sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. It was deep and resonant, sending chills down their spines. They froze, straining to pinpoint the source of the noise. Mireya's camera picked up a sudden burst of heat from the edge of the clearing, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. The sound came again, closer this time. It was unlike any animal call they had ever heard. Mireya and Bryce knew they needed to act fast. They backed away from the clearing, keeping their eyes on the tree line. Whatever was out there, it was watching them just as intently as they were watching it.
A team of researchers from the Expedition Bigfoot crew used advanced data algorithms, along with the latest cameras and scanning technology, to make an incredible discovery. A video that might finally prove Bigfoot is real. Bigfoot footage. During one of their expeditions, Russell Accord was surveying the area the crew had chosen to investigate when he spotted something unusual through his camera lens. At first glance, it looked like a bear, which wasn't surprising given how common they were in the area. But then, the unexpected happened. The creature suddenly stood upright on two legs, moving in a way no bear could, before disappearing into the woods. This sight left Russell in disbelief. He couldn't keep it to himself and immediately shared what he saw with his partner, Zach.
It stood up like you and I would, stood up on 2 feet and walked. A bear will stand on 2 feet. This was different, man. Holy crap.
Russell explained to Zach how the creature stood just like a human would and replayed the clip to him. Even after replaying the clip, Russell could still not believe what he had just seen. What he thought to be a bear due to the fur just stood up like a human being, turned around, and walked away. It's like the creature was squatting, perhaps spying on possible prey or carefully studying Russell and his crew. Although bears could walk on 2 feet, they were not as stable as the creatures they had seen. Excited by this, he tried to get another look at the animal and zoom in around the area to see if the creature would appear on the other side of the trees, but there was nothing to look at any longer. The creature was gone. Overjoyed by this new find, Russell decided to go to the area where he had spotted the creature and investigate more, perhaps find some other clues. After a while, Russell could not wait to show the crew the video he had just captured, and so he called everyone back to base camp. They all gathered at base camp, where Russell had some exciting news to share. Everyone was eager to see what he'd discovered, which made him call them back. Once Russell played the video, they could almost not believe their eyes. Russell told them, "So check this out. It looks like a bear. At first, that's what I thought I was looking at. It's just a bear. Until now. Watch this." Watching the footage, Maria was completely astonished. It felt like they were on the verge of uncovering something extraordinary.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
If you do it slow.
Holy dude.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Something that could change the view of modern science and archaeology forever. Russell slowed down the video to give them a clearer look, and what appeared on the screen left the crew in disbelief. Bryce and Maria, with their deeper understanding of Bigfoot lore, immediately sensed this was no ordinary sighting. To them, it didn't resemble a bear at all. The way the creature behaved, its hairy frame and human-like movement on 2 feet, pointed to a different possibility. For Maria, a detail-oriented scientist, something stood out above all others. She was struck by how the creature moved its head. Its subtle, deliberate movements as it looked around before walking away seemed far too calculated for a bear. The creature's vertical head-to-floor motion only made her belief stronger. With her expertise, she was certain no bear could move that way. Maria also considered the known animals in the area. None of them matched the movement captured on video. To her, this wasn't just unusual, it was a breakthrough. She truly believed that Russell's footage could hold a crucial piece of evidence for their research into Bigfoot's existence. But their research was far from over. Was it a Bigfoot house? As they searched the woods, Bryce and Maria discovered a massive tree structure that they could not explain. Although they had found similar structures in their previous expeditions, like the one in Alaska, this one was way much bigger than the rest. While Maria thought that it was weird, Bryce thought it was amazing. They noticed the intentional arrangement of the trees to form something that looked like a shelter. It was 15 feet high, almost big enough to be called a Bigfoot house. But that's not all. The top of the structure that connected all the trees was intentionally and carefully woven by someone or something. After a deeper examination of the tree structure, Bryce came up with the theory that no ordinary animal could have done this. In his expertise, this tree structure could not have been built by just anyone or anything. This is because there were about a dozen logs weighing around 150 to 200 pounds, with intentional ornamentation laid across. To Bryce, it would have taken a group of men to put the strange structure together.
That is really, really bizarre.
Maria, this is huge.
So what or who really built these structures, and for what? Having seen similar structures in their previous expeditions in different parts of the world, they were now joining the dots. At this point, Bryce was very optimistic about this finding, but Maria didn't seem to think that the structure was that significant. Although their point of view conflicted, they agreed that the structure was a good place to find DNA. If the structure was built and did not exist naturally, then whoever or whatever built it left some evidence of themselves. As they searched for anything they could use for DNA tests, Bryce argued that if the structure was built by someone or something, then it must have had a purpose. In Bryce's perspective, the tree structure was a Bigfoot boundary marker to mark nesting territory, and they were right in the middle of it. Seeing Bryce's excitement, Maria interjected by acknowledging that based on Bryce's analysis, the structure was indeed interesting, but she urged them not to hurry to come to any conclusion. Typical Maria. A scientist in her own right takes a logical approach to gathering data and evidence of pseudoscience beliefs. This was her role in the group, analyzing pseudoscience data and presenting it in a way acceptable to mainstream science.
To me, this is not evidence of anything, but What it did remind me of instantly, though, was that tree structure that we had found in Kentucky. And that's where we had gotten some of our most interesting DNA results.
In order to do that, Mireya believed that the crew had to speak the language of their critics and provide logical proof of the existence of Bigfoot. For this reason, Mireya was always careful and hesitant about using the word evidence to refer to strange findings. To her, this tree structure was not evidence of anything, but it reminded her of a tree structure that looked similar to the one they had found in Kentucky. And Kentucky was an interesting place since the crew had gotten some of their most interesting DNA results. Understanding where Mireya was coming from, Bryce agreed, and they decided to look for more clues. Mireya chose to look for potential samples from underneath the structure, while Bryce took a closer look on the outside for anything else that might have served as a clue to their research. The area around the structure provided the team with a lot of potential samples that they could check later on, and this made them very hopeful about their investigation. According to Mireya, if the findings in an expedition are isolated and far apart, they do not end up being so significant. However, when finding multiple samples in multiple locations in multiple investigations, one must ask oneself whether these pieces of evidence are part of a bigger puzzle. As they searched the structures for any clues, Bryce found some hair samples and called Mireya to check them out. After obtaining the samples, Bryce expressed his interest in taking the hair to the lab for DNA examination. This structure was turning out to be quite a strange one. Not only was it weird looking, but it also had multiple samples of hair all over and around it. These findings increased their hunger for the truth, and so, to get more clues, they decided to go deeper into the forest and explore the riverbanks, a common place to find potential clues since all creatures must drink water. Although they managed to capture Bigfoot on camera and stumbled across some strange tree structures in the woods, it wasn't nearly as creepy as what this female jogger went through. Jogger sneaks a pic. A woman was on her daily jog along an old logging road. As she made her way down the road, something out of the corner of her eye caught her attention. It looked like a figure was wedged between a tree. She couldn't make out what it was, but it definitely seemed off. Curious and a bit scared, she got a little closer. And then she saw it. A dark figure attempting to blend in between the trees. It was doing a decent job of camouflaging itself, especially considering it was foggy, but it still stood out enough like a broad-shouldered furry blob. Terrified and unsure of what to do, of which the wise thing to do was probably run, but no, she took out her phone and snapped a picture of what she was looking at. The figure was dark in color, and, with a face that seemed somewhat human-like, appeared to just be watching her. At first, she wasn't sure if I was looking at the back of its head or the front, but the front of its face looked slightly lighter compared to the top, and the rest of its body had a more grayish tint. Of course, the photo wasn't the best quality, considering the mist and that the creature was intentionally avoiding her gaze, but it was definitely something fascinating. And if it was what she thought it could be, this was a pretty terrifying moment. Yet she was not the only one to spot Bigfoot lurking in the woods and even take a picture of the elusive creature. Bigfoot jogging across the mountain. A group of researchers received unusual footage from a man named John. The video, filmed on a mountain peak along the Wasatch Front, showed a location tied to several Bigfoot sightings. John claimed he captured something strange that really captured the team's curiosity and sent them to investigate the mysterious area. John and his friends claimed they had caught undeniable evidence of Bigfoot. At the time, they were in a valley at about 4,200 feet in elevation. They zoomed in on a peak that was about 9,000 feet. Using a spotting telescope, they filmed the creature moving horizontally, then climbing straight up a steep, snowy mountainside. They had to hold the camera lens to the viewfinder, doing their best to capture it all. It was almost a mile higher than the guys filming it, around 5,200 feet higher. They had to zoom in over 3 miles at least to capture this creature that was easily and quickly running across around 90 inches of snow. The sight of the creature sprinting effortlessly through the thick snow instantly grabbed their attention. As they focused more, the group felt amazed and thrilled. It was hard to believe anything or anyone could move so fast in such deep snow, unless it was incredibly strong and tall in height. When researchers received the footage, they were eager to analyze it. They wanted to determine if it was authentic, especially with so many hoaxes out there. To uncover the truth, They zoomed in on the footage, hoping to get a better look and figure out exactly what they were dealing with. But nothing could prepare them for what they were about to see. They saw a bipedal creature running across the mountain. The creature took a small break and ran off fast across the snow. The researchers couldn't believe what they were seeing. The snow in those mountains was about 90 inches deep, a fact they were well aware of. They explained that for a creature to move so fast through thick snow, it had to be incredibly tall.
It's been said that Bigfoot exhibits nocturnal behavior, perhaps to hunt or to avoid detection. But the cloak of darkness couldn't hide the creature in the stunning footage you're about to see.
With feet sinking deep into the snow and unbelievably strong to move without struggling. It wasn't just running, but doing so uphill. The power and speed it showed across that snow left them completely stunned. What could it possibly be? To try and demonstrate how difficult it would be to run across the thick snow, they went hiking in the foothills east of Francis Peak at Hardscrabble Creek in 18 inches of snow. Sky, a 6-foot-tall strong guy, struggled to barely walk perfectly in the 18-inch snow, let alone run. If the creature they saw in the footage was actually real, then it had to be way taller than Sky, and had to be way stronger for it to run in the 5 times thicker snow of the mountain. The researchers were amazed by what they saw, and the results they had gotten by letting one of them walk in the snow. After the incident, people started asking if anyone had searched for tracks. If the creature was really running in the snow, it had to leave some tracks, right? Some suggested using a drone to explore where the supposed Bigfoot was seen running up a steep mountainside near one of the Wasatch Front's high peaks. A helicopter pilot, curious after watching the video, decided to fly over the mountain to look for signs. What he found shocked him. The tracks were there, although the strong winds at the mountain's top were slowly erasing them, making the evidence fade away. The evidence was there. The researchers made it clear that John wasn't claiming the creature caught on camera was Bigfoot. It had been seen running uphill on a steep, icy mountainside with deep, windswept snow. On top of that, John also didn't say that the giant footprints in the large trackway belonged to Bigfoot. Still, the evidence was hard to dismiss. The steep terrain and unusual tracks left a lingering question of what it was that had been captured on camera. In their expertise, the researchers knew that this trackway was consistent with most realistic Bigfoot trackways. Based on what the researchers knew from other footage, the brisk pace of trackways made by Bigfoot usually had long strides. Additionally, the footprints were directly in front of each other, as if the creature was walking a tightrope. Perhaps one or both of these pieces of video was a clear indication of the existence of the creature. And yet, there is more evidence. Face off with the monster. On a dark, quiet night, a man found himself face to face with a nightmare he could never have expected.
There's a figure right here, and it definitely appears to be a hominid shape. You see a head, what appear to be shoulders, and 2 arms, and possibly even 2 legs.
The man remains anonymous, unwilling to let his identity be public. But his story has spread like wildfire because he captured something horrifying. Clear images of what can only be described as Bigfoot staring straight through his window. How did his story begin? It all started as an innocent escape that quickly turned into a chilling memory he'll never shake. Seeking peace, the man had retreated to a small cabin deep in Washington's wilderness, far from towns, people, and the constant noise of everyday city life. He was searching for calm, hoping the ancient trees and the serene winds would help him recharge. But nothing could prepare him enough for what he was about to encounter. On his second night, as he sat alone by the fireplace, soaking in the silence, a shadow crept up. At first, it was nothing, just something catching the corner of his eye. Maybe it was just the wood settling in. At least that's what he thought. But as he got up to close the blinds, his heart dropped. Outside, through the cold glass of the cabin window, a face was watching him, and to make matters worse, it wasn't human. The figure's face was massive, framed by tangled dark hair. Its eyes were deep-set and gave off a faint, unnatural glow, piercing through the night with an unsettling intelligence. The creature stood tall on 2 legs in the shadows. His skin prickled as he realized it was watching him, studying him. Realizing this, every muscle in his body froze. He knew the stories about the creature and had heard the legends people laughed about, yet here he was, staring into the face of one of those very tales. Gathering what little courage he had left, he reached for his phone. His hands shook, making the first few photos blurry, but he kept clicking, each flash lighting up the creature's face for a brief, terrifying instant. Despite the flashlight, the creature didn't flinch. Instead, it only seemed more curious, almost entertained by his shaky movements. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature turned and vanished into the darkness beyond the cabin's glow, leaving the man with nothing but his hammering heartbeat and a deep, bone-chilling fear. Following this scary encounter, the man couldn't sleep. Hours passed, and with every creak and rustle from outside, he imagined the creature coming back. When dawn finally broke, he dared to look at the photos. Most were blurred messes, but a few captured a clear, undeniable outline of something massive and powerful lurking outside his window. Still shaken, he thought of sharing his experience with the world. On the one hand, he feared ridicule from the masses. This is because Bigfoot sightings, after all, often ended with accusations of hoaxes and attention-seeking. But he also knew he had witnessed something rare, maybe even groundbreaking. After much hesitation, he decided to post the pictures online, using a fake name to avoid backlash. He uploaded them to several Facebook groups that focused on the subject, hoping to connect with people who might believe him. And the images went viral. Almost instantly, Bigfoot enthusiasts and researchers got hooked by his story, their excitement causing countless debates online. Some claimed this was it, the proof they had been waiting for. People shared his photos across forums, blogs, and social media, and stories poured in from others who swore they had seen the same creature in the forests of Washington. And just like that, the online debates began. Some skeptics examined the photos, pointing out the blurry edges, the lack of a video, and the absence of any other witnesses to confirm the man's claims. To them, the story seemed too perfect, just another tall tale thrown into the mix. But to those who believed, the details only strengthened their conviction. They noted the unique posture of the creature in the specific spot where it stood, and even compared these images to older sightings, finding eerie similarities. They saw these new photos as confirmation, believing they had finally glimpsed the forest's most elusive giant. Despite posting the images, the man refused to get pulled into the chaos. He'd said what he had to say, and he'd shown what he'd captured. He let the photos speak for themselves, watching as his anonymous story took on a life of its own. With the attention the viral post was getting, the questions began. Why was Bigfoot watching him? What had brought this creature so close to a human dwelling? Some speculated that Bigfoot might be a nocturnal creature that got out only at night to avoid human eyes or to hunt in peace. That theory fits perfectly with this sighting, but it also raised the fear factor. The creature had shown itself at night, not out of chance, but by choice. This made people question whether Bigfoot was intentionally stalking the man, or it was just a curious encounter. As more people debated, new theories emerged, each one stranger and more chilling than the last. Researchers noted that tales of creatures like Bigfoot in Washington dated back centuries, long before European settlers arrived. The tribes of the Pacific Northwest, including the Salish, Yakima, and Lummi, had spoken of a similar being, a hairy, towering figure they called Sasquatch. According to their lore, Sasquatch was a powerful but reclusive guardian of the forests, a creature respected and feared. For these tribes, the Sasquatch was not merely a tale, but a presence, a protector of nature itself. It stayed hidden, only emerging when disturbed or curious. Could this creature have been watching the man out of sheer curiosity? Or was it something darker, a warning, a reminder that some parts of the forest were never meant to be disturbed?